Utah Jazz didn't make it easy, but the Celtics had all the answers all night long, and some of them came from people we didn't expect them from. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season, drop Drew in the mix. And 3 from KP, no we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still B-Town's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the Steve game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every single Monday through Friday with a free, fresh podcast that drops directly to your device when you subscribe. So open up that app, subscribe, and join the comment section on the YouTube page. Subscribe there. Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. And today I'm covering a Boston Celtics win over the Utah Jazz, 123-107. A not wire-to-wire finish, but after the 8-minute mark of the first quarter, pretty strong Celtics lead from there. But look, I'll get into later on the different guys who stepped up to help the Celtics maintain their lead. Jayson Tatum's big game helped that the Celtics got in the standings. But we're going to start with the answers, the back and forth, the runs, and all of that. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. The big story for me in this game is how the Celtics, they built the lead. They got that lead up to 17. I think it was like 7 different times over the course of the game. The lead got up to 15 plus. And just about each time the Celtics saw that lead drop. And it was kind of like build a lead, give it up, build a lead, give it up. But not give it up in the sense that the Celtics had bad energy or let go of the rope or played down to the competition. I don't think any of that happened in this game. I thought the Celtics played with the right amount of energy. I think they played with the right amount of, purpose and all of that stuff. I think the Jazz had some pretty strong performances from guys like Keontae George. Came out just blistering hot and hit his first, I want to say 5 shots and had 14 points in the first quarter to kind of like duel with Jayson Tatum. And, they got big performances from guys who can score, like Jordan Clarkson can score. Colin Sexton can score. So the Jazz, for all of their deficiencies, they can put the ball in the hoop, and they did that. So I thought the Celtics came out and played pretty well. Now, look, extenuating circumstances here. 3rd game in 4 nights, the back-to-back, the back-to-back that I've been harping on, and I've been saying that I've been expecting this game to be a loss since the schedule dropped. So immediately when you expect something to happen and the opposite happens in a positive sense, it becomes somewhat impressive. I thought they were going to lose. I've been preparing myself for them to lose this game, and they won, and they ended up winning by 16. So to me, that in and of itself is impressive. So a nice win for them. But like I said, 3rd game in 4 nights. It's the end of a 5-game road trip. The back-to-back Portland to Utah, which I've been saying, and you heard if you watch the game on NBC Sports Boston, you hear everybody. I'm not like alone in thinking this. Portland to Utah back-to-back is tough. The travel is not as easy as you think it is. You lose an hour, so you get in late. You lose that hour because of the time zone. You're in altitude, which can impact how you at least start the game. So, and being at the end of that road trip, very easy for the Celtics to, once the things started to fall apart, to kind of not get it back, right? The first half, it was it was okay. They played well in the first half. The third quarter, like when you're fatigued, that first half is actually not where I expect them to come out and completely fall apart. At least in the first quarter, you expect them to come out with some level of energy. And if you're hitting like the Celtics were, that can carry through. But once you take that break, that third quarter, that's where you can kind of like leave your legs in the locker room and things can, be problematic. And in the third quarter, no doubt, the Jazz made a big run. The Celtics started to turn the ball over a bunch. It wasn't particularly crisp. They gave up 34 points in the third. They were outscored by 8 in the third. But finishing the quarter well was very important. They scored the last 5 points of the third quarter, and then the first 15 of the fourth, a 20-0 run. The Celtics had these answers all night long. And one thing about the Celtics, I think this whole season, but in this game in particular, they have rarely given into these ready-made excuses. If the Celtics came out in that third quarter and stunk it up and never got it back, it would be very easy to say, well, look, they all the things that I just laid out, it's going to happen. You chalk it up. You hope they come back. And, that first game back from the West Coast or Western Conference trip, that Phoenix game on Thursday, that's going to be a tough one too. So you'd hope that they could come back and prepare for that and be better. But they did have the answers for this when they held the Jazz to 16 points in the fourth quarter. And the Jazz were complicit in that a little bit, but they are a team that's kind of trying to figure themselves out all over again. They had built themselves up to a certain level before the All-Star break. They made some changes. Now they're starting Bryce Sensabaugh, and they're starting Keontae George. They're starting rookies. They've got Luka Samanic in there, who he was in the Celtics G League and never could hook on with the Celtics, and now he's getting a start. So the Jazz aren't, they're 28-37 for a reason. But like I said before, they can score. They can put the ball in the hoop, and the Celtics, they just never gave in. They never gave in to the easy excuses, which is impressive. When your team is this good, it's impressive to not chalk it up. No Jaylen, no Kristaps, no Al Horford. The Celtics started Hauser. They started Cornette, and they got good performances out of those guys. They got good performances out of the bench, and maybe it's because they didn't have the regular starters. Maybe it's because Cornette and Hauser and Brissett gets minutes and Tillman gets minutes, and those guys come with energy, and Pritchard is always going to come with energy. Maybe that's what kind of kept the Celtics going. So whatever it was, the Celtics managed to continue to answer whatever the Jazz brought. And then in the fourth quarter, when they had that one last answer, the Jazz kind of gave into, it's the Jazz who gave into the excuse, quote unquote. They're the ones who gave into the, they're young, the chemistry isn't there, all of that stuff. They were making mistakes. Will Hardy pulled Colin Sexton for a short stint in the fourth quarter where he's coming down. He's got Tillman on him, and he calls for, he's going to run a pick and roll, and he gets Drew Holiday on him. So he pulls Sexton out to be like, look, the quote was, for the rest of our lives together, never Drew Holiday. So, but they made mistakes like that. They didn't take advantage of minutes where Cornette and Tillman were on the floor, two basically non-shooters that you're supposed to attack defensively. And the Celtics got away with it because the Jazz just didn't know what to do with it. And so the Jazz were not good, and the Celtics were good. And in the fourth quarter, the Celtics' strengths were shining, and the Jazz's weaknesses were evident, and that's how the Celtics end up pulling away. But credit to the Jazz for their runs and filling it up, and credit to the Celtics for having the answers, because this was a game. If there ever was a game where the Celtics would never mind not find the answers, not even go looking for the answers, this would have been it. And they didn't. They played a complete game, and they ended up the road trip 3-2. So successful. I'm going to say it's a successful road trip. I'll get more into that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP. Bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. And hey, baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern for the best MLB season preview, coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Be the first to get local insight from the MLB local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, let's get back into what I think is a successful road trip. Why? It's 3-2. Well, you can say, well, they could have gone 4-1. The Cleveland loss was a bad loss. Yeah, it was a bad loss. And Denver, you feel disappointed in the loss at Denver because you want to just at least see that the Celtics can beat the Denver Nuggets, right? But I see it as a successful road trip. First of all, you won more than you lost. 5-game road trip, 3 games winning, 2 games losing. I just talked about Major League Baseball preview. Think of it like a Major League Baseball series. I know you normally play 3 or 4 games. Let's just say this was a 5-game. They won the series. They won it 3-2. And as I'll talk about in a minute, they actually didn't lose ground in the standings. They got help in the standings. This has actually been pretty successful for them as far as that goes. So even the losses didn't hurt them. The losses brought some valuable lessons, and these are adults, basketball players. They are constantly learning. They're capable of learning. There's always something to be learning. There's always something to be reinforced. So this is a very positive road trip, even with the bad loss. Like I think that every once in a while, a humbling is in order, and I don't know. Maybe it's the current. Maybe this is old man yells at cloud. I remember when I was a kid. I remember when a team was rolling and they got a loss. People used to say, you know what? It's good to get yourself in check. People didn't like 20, 30 game. They didn't want those big winning streaks. They're always afraid of those big winning streaks. A loss peppered in there just to keep you humble was always valuable. So look, you got that lesson there in Cleveland. Denver gave you a lot to look at on film, and if they match up in the finals, that's going to be very interesting. Denver's a really good team, and they're scary. But to then pick it up against Phoenix and play, win a good game against Phoenix, to play a complete game against Portland, to play a complete game against the Jazz, I think it's a successful trip. Jayson Tatum stepped up with 38 points in this game. I would call this a good shooting night. 52% from the field, 40% from 3, 100% from the line, 8 of 8. So 50, 40, 52, 40, 100 as your shooting splits is pretty damn good. 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, 3 turnovers. Celtics just had 8 turnovers overall, 1 turnover in the second half. So another game where the Celtics really took care of the ball when it mattered. That's going to be, if you want something that's going to carry over into the playoffs, that's what you're looking for. To protect the ball like that, if you're only turning the ball over like in the single digits every night, that's going to win you a lot of games. That's going to get you far in the playoffs. But Tatum, a ho-hum dominant self. Like this is, if you want an argument for his MVP candidacy, which I think is just basically over now, and he's relegated to probably 4th or 5th at best. But the fact that he dropped 38, 6, and 2 on in a 16-point win, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, Tatum had a good game. Oh, by the way, Tatum had a good game, right? Like there's no, people aren't going like they're not losing their minds over Jayson Tatum's game here against the Jazz. He had a really good game. So that's, I don't know what else to say. Tatum dominated a bad defensive team. That's how it's supposed to go, and he did what he was supposed to do. So good to see there. And he only took 34 minutes. So that was fine. That was good. Other guys stepping up, and this was, I think, the other really big story from this game in particular. You got Luke Kornet, who's having a great stretch, 12 points, 9 rebounds, career high 6 assists, a block. That Kornet is on a nice little heater where when you hear the phrase "be a star in your role," Brad Stevens loves to talk about that stuff. You have stars and you have stars in their roles. Luke Kornet is starring in his role right now. He's having a real nice stretch. And you think about all the people in particular at the beginning of the season who are talking about, what can we do to get Kornet out of here? You got to get Kornet out of here. He sucks, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's Luke Kornet having a nice stretch. Now, he's not going to have these types of games every time. He's going to have he's going to have down performances too, but he's there for alley-oops. He's there for putbacks. He's there, underrated passer. Great game from Luke Kornet in the start, and great game for Xavier Tillman, who chipped in with 3 of 5 shooting, 7 points, but a plus 14 in this one, second only to Derek White, who I'll get to. 8 rebounds. I thought for a stretch there, Xavier Tillman's rebounding was huge. 4 offensive rebounds. He had an assist and a steal. I thought this was going to be like a Nemaesh Keita game, but he didn't play in this one because Tillman basically took all of his minutes, played over 26 minutes, and was really good. Couple of moments in there, especially early on, where you could tell he wasn't in full sync with the offense, and you can tell that he wasn't entirely comfortable. But I think he settled into the game, and once the offense calmed down, and I think they started out like just a tick too fast, and once they settled down, Tillman settled into his role. He had an excellent game. O'Shea Brissett stepped in and had some good minutes. He had 5 rebounds. The rebounding was big, 46 rebounds overall. The Celtics had 14 offensive rebounds to Utah's 9. I'm sure, and I haven't listened to Locked On Jazz yet, but I'm sure David Locke is sitting there talking about, in part, that 9 offensive rebounds. The Jazz are a good offensive rebounding team. That's a strength of theirs. And to only have 9 offensive rebounds to Boston's 14 is a problem. To be outscored in second chance points 22-10, that's where, if you're looking at it from a Jazz perspective, you're saying that should have been flipped. That probably should have been flipped. And the fact that the Celtics won points in the paint, they won second chance points, they won fast break points, you kept the Jazz out of transition because of your rebounding and because of your offensive execution, because you were making baskets, because you were hitting your shots, because you were getting to the line, you kept the Jazz out of transition. So the two things that the Jazz really do well, the Celtics prevented them from doing it. And that's a credit to the other guys. Obviously Tatum does a good job on the boards. Derek White chips in with 6 rebounds. Drew Holiday checks in with 5 rebounds, but 9 rebounds for Cornette, 8 for Tillman, 5 for Brissett. Those other guys stepping up and keeping Utah off the boards, limiting them to 1 shot. That's probably the biggest difference where the Celtics won this game. They won all of the margins. They shot 92 shots, 6 more than the Jazz. They got to the line 8 more times. They put up 17 more 3-pointers and made 5. The Jazz shot 15 of 32 from 3, 47% from 3, and they still lost by 16 because Boston, this is Joe Mazzulla to a T. It's volume. It's getting up and down. It's getting yourself more opportunities. You put up 49 3-pointers against a team that has the second worst, maybe the worst now, opponent 3-point percentage. We knew going into this game that it was going to be a 3-point heavy performance. We knew that those wide open shots were going to be there, and the Celtics hit them at almost 41%, 20 of 49. That's what you're supposed to do. That's exactly how this is supposed to go. So credit to the other guys for stepping up and helping the Celtics win these margins. The Celtics also got some help in the standings. I'll talk about that, and we'll look ahead in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy done right, made easy. All you've got to do on the #1 fantasy sports app with 3 million people, and you're playing against none of them. There are 3 million members on Prize Picks, and you're playing only against yourself and the projections. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times your money, or how about up to 100 times your money? It's demon time on Prize Picks. So you can turn $10 into 1,000 with as few as 4 correct picks. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play Prize Picks. You see the squares there with red demons and green goblins. That means they have different payouts, and you can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. So go check it out. There's sports from around the world, just about any kind of sport, just about any kind of stat. You pick more, you pick less. If you're right, that's a win. If you're wrong, that's a loss. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA. You get a first deposit match up to $100. Prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you get 4 right, you could turn those 4 correct picks with the right red demon or green goblin box up to 100 times your money. So go check it out. Prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% deposit match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA right now after you're done with this show. Once you're done with this show, Locked On NBA. My buddy Jake Madison. I don't know who's filling in for me today, but it's always somebody great because all of the hosts here on the Locked On Podcast Network do a great job, and rotating hosts all week long on the Locked On NBA podcast. So have some fun with it. Go check it out. The league as a whole, I'm sure they're talking Celtics as well. So go check out Locked On NBA. The Celtics got some help in the standings. They got help from the Sacramento Kings, who beat the Milwaukee Bucks. They got help from, who did OKC play? Indiana. OKC lost. So now when you look at the standings, the Celtics have a, a 9-game lead, 9.5 game lead. Jeez. Oh, man. 9.5 game lead on the Milwaukee Bucks. They are ahead by 10 in the loss column. So the Celtics, when I say the Celtics have the East wrapped up, it's basically wrapped up. So this is how you calculate the magic number. The Milwaukee Bucks have 42 wins, right? They've played 66 games. That means they have 16 games left. If they win all 16, that puts them at 58 wins, right? 42 plus 24 is 66 games. So 16 more games gets them to 58 wins. So the Celtics need to win 59. That's your magic number right there. So the magic number there is 8 for the Celtics. So all they need is, they only need to get to 59 wins. They're on pace to win more than 60. So this is a wrap in the East. The Oklahoma City Thunder lost, so both they and Denver are 45-20. So they've got 65 games. So that means there are 17 left. So they can get 17 plus 45 is 62. So the Celtics need to get to 63. So that's a 12 magic number for them to get the top overall seed. That's how you calculate the magic number. If you take the absolute extreme scenario, whether it's most likely or not, because that means that's what clinching is. It's impossible. You get to the number where it's impossible to be caught. So the Celtics are gonna wrap up the East at some point, and if they beat Milwaukee next week, that changes it because then they get a tiebreaker. And so yeah, they got some help in the standings there. This is part of why I was so worried about this game, especially because it didn't matter. Like, the Celtics could have lost this game. Celtics very easily could have said, you know what? We're tired. We're tired. No JB, no Porzingis, no Horford. Yeah, we're just kind of done. We're looking forward to Phoenix. I don't care about this Utah game. They want to celebrate a win. Congratulations, you get a win. We're chilling. And what's the difference? The Celtics would have been 9 games up on the Milwaukee Bucks instead of 9.5. Like, that's big whoop. So, but they still took care of business. The Cavs are struggling. They're falling away. The Knicks are insignificant at this point. I think we're starting to get to the point where a lot of these teams are going to start getting eliminated from any sort of miraculous run. The Celtics are going to be the 1 seed. They are going to be the 1 seed. And unless something like the most impossible, almost impossible collapse happens. This is not a jinx. Jinxes aren't real. The words that are coming out of my mouth have no influence on what happens in Celtics games. So now it's time to start looking at this end of the standings here, the end of the Eastern Conference, with the Sixers losing to the Knicks. They are down there in 7th now. The Sixers, Heat, Bulls, and Hawks are basically going to be your play-in teams. The Nets are maybe the Nets can make a run. The Hawks don't have Trae Young, so they have an opportunity to fall out. It's possible that the Nets can slip into that 10th seed, but Philly, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, maybe the Pacers or Orlando slip. That's possible. Maybe Brooklyn steps up. That's a whole big swath of teams that the Celtics could be playing in the first round of the playoffs. You think about that. Orlando is only a game out of the play-in. The Knicks are only 2 games out of the play-in, but I'm going to give the Knicks some credit here that they're going to hang on. They're too good. They're better than all these other teams right now. So I would be surprised, but a first-round opponent, think about all of these possible first-round opponents: Orlando, Indiana, Philly, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, Brooklyn. That's a lot of different teams. So still no clarity there, but the Celtics, with this win, just take one step closer to nailing that home court down. And moving forward, it does change, I think, the balance of, who rests, how often do you rest? Can we get Jayson Tatum a couple of games off? Can we just get him to sit once here or there? I just get him a little bit of rest. It's time to get into Jayson Tatum's head and be like, look, buddy, just get yourself right for the playoffs. Just want to make sure that he's as healthy as possible, as fresh as possible. That's all. All right, that's going to be it for today's show. Celtics, there's not much to say about, a win over Utah. There's not much to say as long as they just keep on winning. I don't want to see them lose to Denver or to Cleveland, but at least I gave us something interesting to talk about. We'll see what Phoenix brings us, but we'll be back tomorrow with a podcast as well. Then I'll be here after the Phoenix game. I actually get to take 2 days off, but I got bonus podcasts for you after every game. So that means next week, 7 days of podcasting. And that means basically because they play the Pelicans the following Saturday after that I'm going to give you 13 podcasts in 14 days, starting with that after that Washington game. This is a lot of podcasts for you. So make sure you're subscribed. You're going to get nowhere else are you going to get coverage. I am pumping out content between this and Boston Sports Journal. I am pumping out tons and tons and tons of Celtics content. So make sure you're following me on Twitter at John_Karalis. You can follow me there. You can follow my work on Boston Sports Journal. You can obviously get my podcast here. Subscribe on the audio feed. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe on the YouTube feed. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you think and share the podcast. Spread the word. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.